You're listening to a Faith Matters podcast.
How are you, Denise, as we come into the Friday and some sunshine out there after all our rain?
Yeah, it's been a big week actually in our family. My husband was very involved with the Waikato Regional Theatre, and it was the opening this week. I know a few people who I saw. Some Raglanites, Freedom to Fly, were involved with the opening. What they did was they did a Jeremy Mail and his wife Courtney wrote with others a local Waikato kind of based production. Music, well, there was a little bit of theatre in there, a little bit of music, a little bit of dance, a little bit of like the high, I don't know what you call them when they're doing like...
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Flying around in the trapeze. And,
yeah, but not the trapeze, when they have those two pieces of material hanging down the whole length of the stage and they're doing like, I would call it acrobatics, but yeah. I don't know what it really is called. But it was fabulous. So...
what a great opener.
Yeah, so we got to be in there and saw that. I know, yeah, a few other people got to go in and be a part of that. So they had the first night was... for the sponsors, the second night they had for supporters. So there are a whole lot of people involved in the building or somehow supporting the project, and they all got to go in on Tuesday. And I know they did it again Wednesday night, but I'm not sure what the actual group, whether it was to the public or to supporters that night.
So I'm thinking about, we had Leonard, your husband, on a couple of weeks ago, so people would like to know more about Foster's and the building environment and how they work out, work in community and with community. You could listen back to our podcast on What Are the Odds is what I named that one.
Yeah.
And there were reasons behind that, which we're not going to go into today. You might have to listen to the podcast to figure it out. There you go.
Yeah. So they've got the Live Nation opening tonight. So Live Nation are the organisation who run Spark Arena, and they have taken on the management of the theatre down here, but they've got special deals for community groups and things. So if you're keen to use it, like, do inquire, because it's
How would they do that, Denise?
I would say look up Live Nation and contact someone that way. Yeah, so it was interesting. They were explaining on the sponsors night about how they've got sort of sponsorships for community groups and things like that incorporated into how they do their ticketing. So yay.
Yay. Going to be, and you've got a big weekend coming up, haven't you? You're going to Festival One?
Yeah.
Tell us about, a lot of people don't know what Festival One is, so, and I've never been, I'll just admit that.
Yeah.
I've gone past the camping stage, but, tell us what it's all about.
Festival One is a Christian music festival, so it's held out, it's called Hartford Farm, just out near Karapiro now. It used to be at Mystery Creek.
That's right.
But what they did when Parachute closed, they wanted to keep the musical festival going, but they've set it up a little bit differently. They cap it at 5,000 people, and they pause things at meal times for community. So it's really ideal if you can go out with a bunch of friends. You can still get day tickets and things, but it's a really good thing to do with others, because they do deliberately create downtime for you to be able to spend with people. But yeah, we've got a lot of Whangaroa musicians involved in it. I always marvel, considering the size of this town, how many talented people are here.
Everyone who's creative likes to come to RAG and Whangaroa. Yeah, it does attract arty, creative, theatre, movies, all sorts here, eh?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So whether they're solo artists or whether they are part of bands or whether they are part of the crew, there are, we what is it? They swing above their weight. Whatever that.
Punch above
their weight.
I've heard that one a few times. Okay.
With involvement. So yes. Anyway, we'll be going out there and being part of the crew out there this year again. So
is that part of the crew? Okay, so is that today you're going out, or
yeah.
Long weekend for you, Denise.
Yeah, perhaps a little less sleep than usual.
It'll be fantastic. Okay, so they cap it at 5,000. That's pretty clever, really.
Yeah. Well, then they know, there's I guess it's 5,000 campers, but then they know what they're catering for.
Yeah, for sure.
Back in the day with Parachute, you could have anywhere from sort of 15,000 to 27,000 camping there, so they didn't really ever know what they were preparing for.
Yeah, and they can offer more, I guess. I love this fact that they're creating space and time for community, for people to come together. I think that's really important. You get to meet people, and so it's a Christian environment, so there's going to be lots of banter going on, lots of chats, and where are you from, and, you know, where do you go to church, and, you know, who are your people, and all sorts of things.
I actually, they've got a river stage down by the river and a forest stage, and they've got a guy doing in the evenings, showing you stars, you know, looking at the stars.
Oh, I'd like that.
Yeah, so I'm booked in to go and do that tonight.
Oh, that's cool.
As well as the main stage, and they've got seminars and all sorts of things. It's a fabulous weekend. Always is.
It's going to be a goodie.
Yeah.
And so we're going to head into some faith chats in a moment. And Denise has written a blog. Is this your first blog for the year?
No, my second.
Yeah, do you remember your first one?
Yep, last week's one.
I don't know. What was that, Denise?
What was it called? That
She's
is
looking
a great
it up.
question.
I'm just saying.
I'm like, that was a whole week ago.
It's as bad when somebody tells me, what did you do yesterday? What was your day like? I don't know. We're in today, aren't we? Yesterday's gone.
Absolutely. Okay, so last week's one was called Where Do You Find Yourself?
Oh, I don't know if I read that one, actually.
Yeah, it was all about the words transition and reposition, but we talked about those on the radio the week before I actually put the blog out, so we didn't worry about it last week.
That's why it's a little bit confusing for me.
Yeah.
We're ahead of ourselves.
I know. Who would have thought?
Now everyone's behind, Denise. Okay, but this blog for this week is called Navigating the Unexpected and Managing Attitude on the Way. It's always a good one to unpack, isn't it? Our attitude. Daily we have to look at it.
Moment by moment.
Yeah, it is more than daily, It is like every moment by moment, depending on what's going on. So you have... This blog has come from one of your travels overseas, an experience that you had.
No, it was here.
Oh, I didn't read that. I thought that was
I didn't
overseas.
say where it was.
I just naturally thought it was on one of your hiking
No.
trips over in the Netherlands.
No, it was... I did say that it was our first practice walk for our upcoming pilgrimage.
Yeah, I did read that.
Yeah, so it was. I did refer overseas, but no, we're just walking up to the Te Uku wind farms.
Oh, wow. Now I've got a perspective of the area you're walking. Okay, so do you want to kind of lead us into this a little bit, what this whole blog is about?
Well, we were just merrily walking on our way, wandering up to the wind farms, and as we walked along it's sort of a private road up that way, but walkers are welcome, and so we're walking along, and then all of a sudden, right in front of us, the gates closed to block you off from going further up the road, and there's a sign saying walkers go off to the side and walk up this winding path. And there's a part of me that's just like, but we're about to climb the Swiss Alps. Like, I just want to go up. Like, why do I have to turn off and go up a gradual winding path when I could just go straight ahead and hit this hill and I could get up to the top faster? But this gate was there. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, here's your attitude. I had the choice. I could have done it nicely.
I could see the attitude, Denise, just saying.
But I was like, oh my gosh.
Do I have to follow the rules here? Like, why do I have to? Go.
So I turned off and I went up the winding path like a good little girl, and I got up to a point where I could see back down towards the road, and what I hadn't been able to see before was that in that section where the gate was closed, there were bulls or steers grazing. And there's quite a few of those in paddocks along the side, but now they're right on the road, and I'm like, oh, if I had tried to climb that gate and carry on, I would have been coming across these animals, and I'm not a fan of bulls, to be
good
fair.
runner? Are you a fast runner?
No, I'm not really fast at much of anything. So I looked back down and I just went, I'm just so grateful that we came the winding path. So my whole perspective changed once I saw that was going on.
So, navigating the unexpected, how did this come about from that experience?
Well, it was kind of once I could see the bulls in the steers, bulls or the steers, they're probably steers, but I'm calling them bulls because that's scarier to me.
Yeah, true that.
Once I saw them, it changed my attitude because suddenly I was grateful.
Right.
Whereas before I was grumbling and whinging and whining and moaning and probably more in my head than out loud, but the thoughts were there. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't go that way. So, sometimes we can be put off course and we can get a bit grizzy about it. But just that encouragement to maybe, go with what life throws at you sometimes without all the grumbles, because you just actually don't know what you're saved from sometimes.
And we want to do what we want to do, eh? If we can see that, if we can't logically tell ourselves why that gate is there and, what the purpose of it is, you're not even thinking about the animals that could be behind it. You're just thinking there's a gate there. That's the way I want to go.
Yep.
And in life that can be often, what we do. We can see a direction we want to go. We may not know a lot of information around it and haven't really tried to discover the information around where we're going. We just want to go that direction, you know. If there's a shortcut, we want to take it.
Yeah, and we've just, we set out to walk up the road to the wind farm, so that's what I had in my head to do. And we had done it before, and I know when we did it I think it was about 3 years ago we last walked it, and I did remember going off to the side, and I was like, this time I don't want to go off to the side, I want to go straight. And then I come to a gate, and I'm just like, ugh. So straight away, I've already said this thing, I've made a declaration that this is what I want to do, and yet then I'm confronted with a decision. Do I follow the signs, which turned out to be the better thing to do?
Obviously. It usually is, Denise, because somebody's often gone before us and discovered the right way to go.
Well, that's so true. But we don't necessarily appreciate what they know and what they've journeyed to put that sign there to say, hey, go that way.
Yeah, so we were talking about Denise's little journey up to the windmills and a gate effectively blocking her way. Well, it wasn't really, it was just that's the way she wanted to go. And we were just discussing, that sometimes what's blocking our way is there for a reason, and obviously this was about bulls being in the paddock that Denise couldn't see from her advantage point at where she was standing at that time. And often that's the way in life too. We can't see what's ahead of us, and we see an obstacle and we can get frustrated by the obstacle that's in front of us, and often that's been placed there by somebody else, and we don't know why. We just know that that's the way we wanted to go, and now something is blocking my way, and we get annoyed and frustrated by it. And this is kind of where you were talking about it, a bit of an analogy around, obstacles and what blocks our way and why that might be there, and in our attitude towards it, which, you found out there were bulls in the paddock, which was a life-saving thing for you, that you didn't cross that way. For me, I was thinking about the guy in the news just lately who went for a bushwalk and just went off the track a little bit and got lost for 3 weeks, Denise.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. Thank goodness it was in New Zealand, because, there's not much here that'll take you out, and there's lots to eat in our bush that we can find. So I was so wrapped, because I think I'm don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure on the very day that they decided he was no longer alive, they found him. And
wow.
So within an hour, he was like dead, but now he's alive. No, he's alive. We found him, and he looked amazing. So
I feel like we could come up with a great analogy just from that story.
I know, the poor guy. And look, he just went off the track a bit. I mean, I so relate to this, because my sense of direction is pretty bad. And I remember a time in Auckland where I got terribly lost. I went to this guy who was speaking, and I had Josh then. He was a baby, and I was actually feeding him, breastfeeding, and I'd left him with PJ so I could go into Auckland to go to this this speaker that I wanted to hear, and he was in the city part, and it was quite a gathering. There was probably a couple of thousand people there, and I parked my car, right?
Yes.
And I walked to where I wanted to go to, and honestly, I mean, when I turned up, there was a couple of thousand people there. Well, when I left, there was probably about 500 people there. And everything looked different and nothing looked the same. And so just the streets and everything, I got so confused. I couldn't find my car. And then I started to panic because I know I needed to get back to feed my Joshie. And people would start to wonder where I am. And I couldn't find my car. I didn't know what to do, Denise. I'm on my own in Auckland. And there was 2,000 people here. Now there's not a lot here. And I didn't know what to do. And I just turned around basically and just got completely lost. And in the end, I had to stop a taxi driver and explain to him where I'd left my car, like what I could remember of the environment. Bless his heart, he knew where I'd parked it, and he took me straight to it.
Oh wow!
I know. I was so panicked by then, and in such a state. The poor guy. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, he knew Auckland really well, so I'd explained the environment that I'd left my car in, and he recognised it. I was so thankful, but. You know, all I did was turn around, basically. So I can understand the guy taking a few steps off the track. That would be me. I'm that person. Turn me around and, oh, no, everything looks the same. Where am I? We're done.
Wow.
Sense of direction isn't in me.
I'm just like, so this is Faith Matters. So did you pray?
I probably did. I was probably in tears. It was a long time ago, Denise. My son's now 22, so
Right.
you know, it was 22 years ago. But yeah, I can remember the panic I felt of not, I just kept walking in circles, and I had to kind of remind myself where I was walking so that I wasn't just walking, because I just kept walking past the same people all the time.
Wow.
What is this woman doing? It was panic mode. I was in mama mode and panic mode all at once, and so, it was a pretty miserable moment.
Wow. No, that would be really frightening. Yeah. Well, the good news is that we didn't get lost as we walked up to the Tiuku windmills.
No, you can't get lost here, Denise. There's no bush. It's all pretty open land.
There actually is. There's a little bit. The little side winding pathy thing took us up beside some bush or through some bush. But that sort of thing, when you look back at it, you can be grateful for the ending. But that doesn't mean that it's easy in the middle to kind of hold things together. I think there's lots of people who have who are perhaps in the middle of something and they don't know, they haven't seen the hindsight type insights at this point. And
I've just seen the obstacle.
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah.
Does it stop you, or do you go the way you were meant to go, or do you push to go the way you want to go? Because we can't see the outcome yet. And if we know the way that we're meant to go, we know that there's kind of safety there, eh?
Yeah. And I think, once I realised that the animals were in there, I was grateful that there was a gate, because I'd already walked past several paddocks with animals in them. And I know I'm a farmer's daughter, I'm supposed to be brave, but I have never liked bulls.
No, nobody does, Denise. Not a good idea to put yourself in the paddock with a bull, even if you're not wearing red.
Yeah. So no, it was interesting, and so as we went up this winding path, there was something else that I saw when I got to that same vantage point, and what it was that the road from the gate where I had to turn off, I had it in my head I wanted to get up quickly, and so I was thinking the winding path would be like a gradual ascent, and what I really wanted to do was go on the road just to get up quick and just be there. But what I discovered from that vantage point was that once the road went just around the corner at the gate, I couldn't see where it went. It actually went down, like quite significantly down. So here I was going up the winding path, and I was actually quite high. I'd already climbed up quite a long way. And looking back at the road, I could see that if I'd taken the way I wanted to go, at this point I would be really low. There would be a really steep climb in front of me, but I wouldn't have made any progress. In fact, I would have gone further down before I climbed. And I think of that, like how many times when you think of a dream or a goal or something that you're looking forward to, and you think, I'm going to, get that promotion, or we're going to go on holiday, or we're going to whatever. And so you think of it, and you think of it as a straight line from where you are now to that thing. And you don't realise that as you prepare for that, there's going to be, say if it's the role at work, there's going to be long hours, and there's going to be exhaustion, and there's going to be the dynamics of other people pushing or pulling on you at work.
Responsibilities that you hadn't expected.
Yeah, those sorts of things. So, or if you've got a dream and you think, yes, I'm going to work towards that. And on the way, you can have some really low times, really hard stuff that you have to walk through. I think that's the reality for so many people. So what I discovered when I was standing on that particular point looking over the road is that when I had turned off at the gate and followed the sign and gone the winding path that I didn't want to go on, it was actually to my benefit, because I had gradually climbed. It hadn't been a hard climb, and here I was looking back at the road that I wanted to go, and I suddenly could see that road would have been really difficult. Quite aside from the fact there were animals on it, just the terrain was going to be hard. And here I was almost at the top, and I was looking back, and I was like, wow, if I had gone the straight road instead of the windy road, I wouldn't have, it would have been much harder to get where I was going. And so I think sometimes if you take that analogy through to life, sometimes something comes up and it forces us to change direction. It forces us to approach life in a way that we didn't expect. But sometimes, that winding path, although it's not something that you wanted to walk, actually it is the better path for you, and it creates it. Makes you who you are now, rather than the road that you thought you wanted to walk. Maybe that wasn't actually the ideal road for you after all.
Yeah, it's one that these are analogies, which are just thoughts that we have around a picture that we're giving. And when I think about life changes for myself, I thought that my life was, when I was living down Christchurch and with a whole different bunch of people, very different lifestyle than I have now. I expected that to be my life for always and ever. But there was some things that happened in that journey that made me realise that I had to make some decisions where I couldn't see, I had to make a completely different decision in my life to actually get out of where I was. Wow. And I couldn't see what that was going to look like. I could see what it was going to look like if I stayed where I was, but this new direction that I was going to have to make, I couldn't see that what the outcome of that decision was going to be, but I knew it was the right decision, because where I was going was not healthy, and it wasn't leading to anything. Well, I didn't know I wasn't going to get anywhere. I think I probably could have got many places, but I think the benefits to my own life and my own growth, my own maturing wouldn't have happened if I had carried on the way that I had carried on. And I think my personality would have adjusted to fit the environment that I was in too. Right. And I probably would have become a completely different person than I am now, although some of those traits are still in me. The mongrel's still there, Denise. I kind of like the mongrel. She's pretty cool. I would never get rid of her. And we don't need to drop ourselves away when we do a different direction. It's just that these things get honed a different way. The skills or the abilities within the girl of me that was a bit harder, those traits haven't gone. I use them in a different way now.
Yes.
And so they've become more strengths for me rather than something that was going to lead me off on a track that was not going to be healthy for anybody.
Yeah, that's actually wonderful, because sometimes when we've had quite a different experience, we bring a different perspective into who we are now than perhaps, the people in this area may or may not know what that feels like to live that lifestyle. And so you can relate to a whole lot of people that perhaps other people couldn't.
Absolutely. I don't regret my life and the directions it's taken. And they've been quite harsh directions. But my learning in that has been amazing. And I do have insights into personalities, or just have more compassion, I think, and empathy for people in their journey and where they're at, rather than trying to avoid them or have nothing to do with certain types of people that might seem aggressive or just not like everyone else. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I know what it means. You can figure it out for yourself. But without having to get into a whole lot of words, the insight that I have, I'm thankful for it. Definitely has helped me to work with people. So we don't want to stop experiences of life, from happening, but I think we need to know when we need to not go through the gate. What gates do we absolutely leave closed or walk past, like you wanted to go through the gate and there was danger behind the gate, obviously. But you didn't do it, thankfully. And we have choices through life all the time of whether we open a gate and go through it or whether we walk past it as we're meant to, and maybe just look over and have a look and view it from a distance so that we can see why we didn't go through that gate. But not all gates are meant to be opened, huh?
Interesting thought. Like, from a Christian perspective, we know that each of us are created with a purpose, that we're not here by accident. And I can think back to a few times where I've talked to people who they've prayed about what they're doing for going forward. They've prayed about their direction. They've prayed when they're making decisions, and they really believe that they are following God's leading with what they're supposed to be doing. And so they just know that they're in the right place. But that place doesn't necessarily seem easy. And the other thing is, it often will take them on something that they just weren't expecting. It wasn't, if they planned out their life journey, it was not on the cards. They just never imagined it. And yet, when they talk about that life, and its highs and its lows, often people who sort of step into something and they feel like that's something they're really supposed to be doing, they'll often experience really hard times as well as the joys. But what I've heard them say is that they just are so blown away. Like, it's like that moment on the thing, looking down at that other road, just realizing that this complete sidetrack that you never would have imagined for yourself can actually be something that gives so much fulfillment as you step into what you're called to do.
Absolutely. And here's a question for you. Do you think being a Christian makes it easier in life, or
I don't think that being a Christian is easy in any way. I think some people perhaps are under the impression of, wow, you plus God equals cruise. But I would say not. But what I do find is that because God can take our burdens and give us peace, that you can walk through things with a peaceful assurance that you're not alone. And you can experience the darkest of times, but even in that, you know that He's with you. And, you could be absolutely, something awful could happen, and God's there comforting you also going, oh no, I wish that you didn't have to experience that. But the reality is other people have free will, they make their decisions, and sometimes we experience stuff that's tragic. But when you can walk through that with this peace, and I'm not saying it's always easy, sometimes it takes process to be able to get through, even to come up for air and to be able to see where God was in that moment. But there's that Psalm 23 where it says, though I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. So, if someone's got a shepherd's crook and they're leading and guiding, the sheep doesn't always want to go in the direction that the shepherd's leading, but they know what they're doing. They're sort of leading you in a certain direction for a purpose. It might be to get through this ravine because they know that on the other side of it is a lush field of grass. But you've got to go through that to get there. So I think, from that perspective, you still feel all the emotions. There's nothing easy about being a follower of Jesus, yet you just have, I'd say, a strength, just knowing that you're not in it alone.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the cornerstone in many ways, is that, we don't walk this journey alone. And I love that you talked about the choices that we make. Christianity isn't about going a certain direction and that's all there is to it. We have a choice we make all along the way, and even in their choices, even if they're not the choices that were right for us in the moment, we're still not left alone. We're not alone in our bad choices.
Yep.
And so I think, having somebody on the journey with you gives you a lot of insight, especially if you've got relationship there, because you can sense certain things as not being right or not being how it should be, and it can divert you back onto the track that you should be on.
Actually, that reminds me back to your guy that you're talking about that just went off the track a little bit and was lost for 3 weeks. So there's a great analogy with what we're talking about. So if you've got someone with you and you go off the track a bit, like the way I would describe a relationship with God is that he's constantly inviting us back closer to him. And so, if we do go off the track, he'd be on the track saying, hey, it's over this way. And so, you can make your way back to the track and back to safety. But if you don't, he was lost for 3 weeks, but he was found. And so,
thank goodness.
Yeah. So he experienced all this other stuff for quite a long period, but he still got found.
Yeah.
So it's the question of, do you just, go off track and try and make your own way, or do you have that person there to say, hey, we're over here? Yeah.
So, the shepherd with the shepherd's crook, the shepherd is about shepherding the sheep, and often Jesus is talked about as being our shepherd.
And a good shepherd.
And people can have a difficulty with that. It's kind of like, you got to do what you're told, and you got to go this way or that way. But yeah, it's not like that, because even if we know, which way we should go, we still have a choice to make. We can still make a choice outside of that and go in the direction we want to go. We will reap the repercussions of whatever that direction might be.
Yeah.
But nothing is ever wasted. There will be some learning curve in there that, we will take back with us that we hadn't had before. Maybe some insights, but was it necessary? I don't know. Was it really something you wanted to go through? I don't know. The choices we make, we can at any time make a different choice than what's in front of us. Yeah, we've been talking about things that come in our way when we want to go in a certain direction, and suddenly an obstacle comes along, and we wanted to go that way, but now we can't, and we have to go a different way. And sometimes those obstacles are there in our life for a reason and a purpose, to keep us safe from things, or maybe keep something safe from us too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing with the animals behind that gate, is that from my perspective, it was keeping me out from where I wanted to go. But perhaps from the farmer's perspective, it was keeping the animals in. This was a road that they could have wandered out onto the public road if they had got through. So, maybe it wasn't about me at all.
Yeah. And sometimes the journey that we go on, because of those obstacles that happen in our life, lead us into the place that we're meant to be rather than where we would like to be. I think about, I guess coming into when I did my Bachelor of Counselling many, many years ago now, and I felt a word from God, which might sound strange to a lot of people. I felt him tell me to do my counselling. It was that's what he wanted me to do, for me to be able to give the benefit of my life experience. I needed to have some substance around that. And at the time when I got that prompting to do my bachelor's, my first reaction was, well, that's an absolute no, because I wasn't educated. I left school at a very young age, and really didn't really do school. Really, Denise. Looking back, I was dyslexic, so a lot of my learning skills were more in the creative area, where I would excel rather than in the academic writing and reading and having to regurgitate. That was
Right.
So I found that extremely difficult. So when I thought about doing my bachelor's, which I was in my late 40s when I did it, it just seemed an impossible task, really. And I thought, this is crazy. I can't do this. I actually can't do this. And I felt a word from God say to me, just do one day at a time. That's all. One day at a time. And I thought, okay, for me to be able to even fill out the application form to do my bachelor's, really it was just, that was the first step, one day at a time, to spend a day filling out the application, which I did. And it took me probably longer than a day, because I probably had to ask people and get information on what they were looking for and what they were wanting. It was quite a process, and I didn't think that I had the ability to do that. But one day at a time, I could actually start to work through those difficult problems that I was facing academically. If I looked at the bigger picture, which was 3 years of training full time, I was like, I don't even know what they're going to teach us over those 3 years. What possibly can we do in counselling for 3 years? It just did my head in. I couldn't even conjure up what might be needed from me in that time.
Little did you know what you're in for, eh?
Oh my gosh, Denise! I was in a classroom full of people that understood computers. I hadn't even really opened one up, let alone found spell check. That was like magic for me.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you said before that you really felt that God had prompted you and given you direction to do the counselling. What did that actually look like for you? Because I think a lot of people go, did you hear an audible voice? Like they wonder, what does God sound like?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, because I there's two answers I could have to that, Denise. I have audibly heard the voice of God once in my life, audibly.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's more that I've been thinking about something and I will get an idea, and then it will grow, or I'll get an impression of a direction that I should go, or I'll get an imprint, I'll get a picture of something, and it's almost like a blueprint. But the audible voice I heard when I was probably, I don't know, I was probably about 8, on the farm with cousins and my siblings, and I was a lot younger than them, and they didn't really want me around. And so they decided we would play a game of hide and seek, and that I was the seeker, they were the hiders.
Yeah.
And so I had to count while they all went and hid. And I think it was just to get me out of the picture, really, so they could all go away.
Were you the
Leave me
youngest?
there. I was the youngest. They didn't want me around.
Yeah, live that,
They
Judy.
were probably up to some mischief. They didn't want me there. And anyway, I went to a calf shed, and I was just sitting in the calf shed counting, and the next minute I could hear this banging. It was a tin roof, and I didn't know, but they were all on the tin roof, and they were jumping up and down on the tin roof, right?
Oh.
So I'm counting, they're jumping up and down, I'm not really knowing what's going on, and next minute I hear an audible voice saying, "Move now." Now, the voice that I heard was very authoritative, and it wasn't a voice that I could deny, like
Wow.
question or anything.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard the command, "Move now," I just shot to the corner of the shed, and at that point in time, the whole thing caved in, with the kids on top, and the tin roof went through my foot and cut it just about completely. And they still didn't even know I was under there. It was just till they saw the gory mess coming out on the concrete that they realised that I was under the building. And so, yeah, they got me out, and I was rushed to Tauranga Hospital, and the doctors didn't believe they could put my foot back together because all the nerves and tendons had been cut. Quite an impossible task for them back then, but they did, Denise. And
Wow.
miraculously, I have a working foot that I can feel the nerves in, and it works just fine. A good scar there, but yeah, that voice that I heard, I believe that was audibly the voice of God at that time, because if I had stayed where I was in the shed, the roof, they would have all fallen on me. It would have been on my head,
Yeah.
not my foot.
Yeah, and that would have been
Well, it would have been the end.
Yeah.
End of the story, really. You wouldn't be
Yeah.
hearing this story.
So it's interesting. So there's a really good example of, you ended up going away that wasn't ideal. I'm sure it didn't feel great having your foot injured so much, but actually the alternative would have been so much worse.
Yeah, well, it was hearing, when you were talking about, have you heard, what does it feel like, what does it sound like to hear the voice of God? And I don't think, if I think about it now in that moment, it's an impressionable moment for me. I have it strongly in my memory, but I can't conjure up the voice. You know what I mean? Like I can't think, I just know how strong and authoritative that was, and the impact it had on me, that I couldn't deny what that instruction was. And so later on, when I did my Bachelor of Counselling, and when I've heard the direction from God, I haven't heard an audible voice like that. It's more of in my gut and in my knowing, or I might slightly hear something in my head, but it's not landed yet. It's not real. It's not solid. It's just in the thinking process, and then it becomes in my gut, and then I know something, when I've heard it, and then I feel it in my stomach, and suddenly, things start to make sense to me, or circumstances in my life start to line up where what I've been told starts to become a reality, of the
And it's
direction I'm meant to
interesting
go.
because over time, like it does talk in the Bible about Jesus being the good shepherd and how his sheep know his voice.
Yes.
And so there's a level of life experience there that as you've experienced these things, you start to recognise it. So the next time you sense something in a similar way, you now start to recognise that actually that's what God's voice sounds like.
And that gut feeling, I think, too, that you know what you know what you know, and you can sense it, and there's no denying it. I guess those out there that feel that will understand what I'm saying. Those that don't, you may have a different connection point in your faith and how you talk or relate to God. For me, it was very natural as a young age. And that's what put me in a good foundation as I got older, because I wasn't a Christian growing up, and God wasn't a big factor in our life, but he certainly made himself known to me. And even though I went through some tumultuous times that were really quite dangerous, the fact is I knew him well enough that when I came back to wanting to find him, to wanting that to sense him again in my life, it didn't take me long to get back on track, to find him and to know, oh, I know what this is, I know what I'm feeling, and here it's the same feeling. And I was able to connect with people because of that. Yeah.
I think, I've heard people ask the question of, when you're thinking something, how do you know that it's God's voice? And often, we've got three voices. It could just be ourselves, and it's often all about self-preservation. So you might have a God thought of, I could go and do the counselling course, and your self-preservation goes, oh no,
Absolutely.
I could not do that. That's not me. Then you've got potentially the voice of the enemy who would come in and say, you're useless. It's going to be less about self-preservation. It's going to be more accusation. Like you could, you're this, you're that. Yeah. You don't deserve it. You're never going to be able to help anyone anyway. And so you've got that derogatory sort of pulling down kind of voice. Yeah. And that's not yourself. That's actually a voice of someone who's out to kill, steal and destroy. So that's what that voice sounds like. And then you've got the God voice, which will either build you up and say, yeah, this is something that you could be doing. You could be making a difference. Or
could be saying, move now.
Yeah, or it could be something that's completely, you just know it's not your thought, like that move now thought is just something that's so surprising and so out of, what you would have come up with yourself, that you just know that it was not you coming up with the thought.
Miracles still happen.
This afternoon, Marie and I have been talking about redirection, navigating the unexpected, and dealing with our attitudes as we go along that path.
Yeah, and we've also been talking about hearing from God, being a Christian, and what that means for us, that we aren't on this journey on our own, that we have somebody walking alongside us, and that can be a really helpful thing in life, obviously, in the choices we make and the directions that we want to go sometimes aren't always the best ones for us. And I shared a story about when I heard from God and how I hear from him. Denise is taking photos. And I guess, God talks to us. Don't ever think that he doesn't have a relationship with us in some way. It's just, what's your relationship with him? If you know him and you have him in your life, how do you hear from him? How do you let him shepherd you? How do you allow that to change things in your life when you want to go in a certain direction?
Maybe actually sometimes a door closes for you, and that's really hard because you have to go the way you didn't want to go. But actually sometimes that door closing turns out to have been a real blessing instead of, it might have been where you wanted to go, but it might not have given you all the good things that sidewinding path actually led you to.
So if you want to know more about all of this, you could read Denise's blog. You can find that on Denise.nz. There it goes. On Facebook. There we go. Have a look at her. She's got many blogs on there. You could look up Faith Matters too, and on Instagram or Facebook you will find many of our podcasts under Faith Matters. You can also find our podcasts on Raglan Radio. If you're wanting to hear back on some of the chats that we've had, I can encourage you to do that. I often go in and edit the show, so you can listen to it in podcast form, or you can have the music attached. Totally up to you on however you want to listen in.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you are wanting to know more about faith, the faith journey, having God in your life, you're welcome to join us this Sunday, 10 a.m, Raglan Area School. We have Pastor Peter Tate talking this Sunday, bringing us some thoughts that he has. I'm sure it's going to be pretty awesome. And you will, if you want to be involved in community, get to know your community, many of us are there. So come and join us, see what it's all about. You are very, very welcome. Otherwise, have a fabulous weekend. Be kind and gentle to yourself and others. Smile at somebody. You might be the only one that's done that today, and you just might make their day for them. It's great to feel part of community, and that's just a way that we can do it, by connecting in with others. So have a good one, and got any passing thoughts before we go, Denise?
Have an amazing long weekend.
You've been listening to a Faith Matters podcast. If you have questions, email us on faithmatters98.1fm@gmail.com.